Hey everyone, welcome to our review of organelles. Organelles are parts of our cells. They are these small pieces that make up every single living cell and help them carry out their functions on a day-to-day basis. In this chart, you can see that in the left-hand column, there is the name of the organelle. In the middle, there is a brief summary of what that part of the cell does. And on the right is a description of which types of cell that organelles could be found in. So A would stand for animal, PL would stand for plant, and PR would stand for prokaryotic cell. So let's go through those one by one. The first organelle that I want to talk to you about is the cell membrane. That is a semi-permeable barrier around the cell, and every single type of cell has a cell membrane. What do I mean by semi-permeable? Well, that just means that there are only certain things that can pass in and out of the cell. It is a barrier that allows some things to come in, like oxygen, water, and not other things that could be bad for the cell. So semi-permeable barrier protects and controls what goes in and out of our cells. The next organelle to talk about is cytoplasm, and just like the cell membrane, how the cell membrane is found in every type of cell, so is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a gel-like fluid that contains all of the organelles in our cells. Usually in these pictures, you can see it as kind of that yellowish background in the animal cell. It's this bluish background in the prokaryotic cell, or this greenish background of the plant cell. That's our cytoplasm, a gel-like fluid that just kind of holds everything together. Next up, we've got the nucleus. Now, you can see in the prokaryotic cell here, there is no nucleus, but there is a nucleus in the animal and the plant cell that controls the activity of the cell because it contains the DNA. Some people might say that it's the brain of our cell, but it has a very important role to control our cells and to contain and protect our DNA so that it could be used later to make our proteins. Next up, organelle is going to be our ribosomes. Our ribosomes are found in every single type of cell, including the prokaryotic cell here. And ribosomes are really, really important. We have talked about ribosomes because they actually are the site of protein synthesis. They are the location where proteins get made. That's really important because proteins are used in all different parts of our cells, especially those enzymes that speed up reactions. The ribosome is where those get made. Now, ribosomes can be free-floating in the cytoplasm, and in plant or animal cells, they could actually be attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, or ER. Next up, we've got the mitochondria. The mitochondria is sometimes known as the powerhouse of the cell. It is the site of cellular respiration, which is an important chemical reaction where we convert sugar or glucose into ATP through a series of reactions. Prokaryotic cells are not complex enough to have a mitochondria, but plant and animal cells do have mitochondria because plant and animal cells need them to do cellular respiration. Next up, we've got the endoplasmic reticulum, also known as the ER. There could be smooth or rough. Like I was saying, rough means it has ribosomes. Smooth has no ribosomes. But the main job of the endoplasmic reticulum is to transport materials throughout the cell, to move them within the cell. So the endoplasmic reticulum, it's kind of almost like the bus loop of the cell. It transports material throughout the cell just like a bus would transport material or people throughout a city. The next up organelle is going to be the Golgi apparatus. Those modify, package, and distribute materials. They can do those things either within the cell or even send materials outside of the cell. Again, not going to be found in the prokaryotic cell, but will be found in plants and animals. The Golgi apparatus is kind of like the post office of the cell because it modifies, packages up, and distributes materials. So just like our post office can send mail within the city or even outside of the city, our Golgi apparatus can send materials throughout the cell or even send things outside of the cell. Now, lysosomes are our next organelle, and they are really cool. I usually remember how or what they do is because lyse sounds like slice, and lysosomes are responsible for slicing up and breaking down the waste in the cell. They contain special digestive enzymes that break down materials, and they're mostly found in our animal cells. Now, sometimes occasionally you can find one in a plant cell, but pretty much if you're thinking lysosomes, think animal cells. Breaking down waste that is found in our animal cells is the job of the lysosome. Next up is going to be the vacuole. Now, the vacuole is a big kind of sac that contains water, waste, and nutrients. In a plant cell, you can see over here, it is a very large vacuole. It's what we call a large central vacuole because it's typically near the middle of the cell, and it's full of all of that plant cell's water. If a plant is well watered, it will have a large vacuole. And if the plant hasn't gotten water in a couple days, you notice on the leaves it starts to shrivel up. That's because the vacuole isn't full, and that causes the plant cell to shrivel. Animal cells can also have vacuoles, but if an animal cell has it, it's going to be a very small vacuole that would contain some of its water, and you don't necessarily ever find a big, large vacuole in an animal cell. Next up, we have an organelle that is only found in animal cells. Those are the centrioles. Centrioles are found in only animal cells, and they do help our animal cells with their cell division with things like mitosis and meiosis, the moving apart of DNA during cell replication. To make a new cell, you've got to copy your DNA and then separate it. Those centrioles help direct that process and make sure that the chromosomes go to the right ends of the cell, the right poles, and make sure that the right amount of DNA goes to each pole. Next up, we've got cytoskeleton. Cytoskeleton can be found in all types of cells. It is including animals, plants, and prokaryotic cells. Cytoskeleton works to support, shape, and sometimes even move materials throughout the cell, but it's very small. It's hard to see. We've been able to see it with electron microscopes, but it is there in the cytoplasm, and it helps with support and shape of our cells. Next up, we've got the cell wall. You cannot find cell walls in animal cells, but you can find them in plants and prokaryotic cells. They're on the very most outside layer of our plants and prokaryotic cells. They're very rigid, kind of tough, hard. They're outside of the cell membrane, and they provide support and protection and shape for the prokaryotic and plant cells. Again, they're not found in animal cells. Animal cells are typically a circle shape, and they're able to move around because they don't have a cell wall, but plants and prokaryotic cells do have cell walls for shape and support and protection. Last but not least, we've got the chloroplast. The chloroplast is only going to be found in our plant cells, and they have a really, really, really important job, which is photosynthesis, which means that those plants are going to have a chemical reaction where they take light energy from the sun. They also take in water and carbon dioxide, and they convert those materials into oxygen, which we use to breathe, and also convert it into glucose, which is a simple sugar that we rely on for energy. Actually gets used in the mitochondria for cellular respiration once we eat the sugars from the plants. Anyway, thank you so much for listening.